Hey guys, SoCal Slow Pitch here. Going to talk a little bit about tackle. Slow pitch jigging here in Southern California. This is my favorite way to fish. Obviously, you walk into a tackle shop and it's something that you could look at a wall of metal similar to what you see here. There's a lot of different options, but I wanted to talk about what works for me. Trip specific down here, San Diego, or if you're fishing out of LA, going to Catalina, San Clemente Islands, you're fishing up in Ventura, going to the Channel Islands and beyond. I fish out of San Diego, I'll fish offshore, I fish the beaches local, and I also go out to the Coronados, which is one of my favorite places to fish like this locally. And then, going down to Cedros as well is a great place. Fantastic. One of probably the best places in the world, in my opinion, obviously, to do this exclusively on the West Coast. So we'll talk about some of the things I use, some of the things I've had success with. But first, let's talk about what you probably already have, which are these things. These are Shimano butterfly jigs. If you've been fishing the last 10 years when the tuna first showed up in a big way in 2015, 2014, these were all the rage. These are some of the most, I'd say, widely sold jigs. Chances are you might own these. The Katy Perry, the glow-in-the-dark. This is a 160. This is a 250. Don't sleep on these. These are center-weighted jigs. They flutter. These are basically slow-pitch jigs. So you could put 2 assist hooks on the top of these things. You could fish. A lot of guys, when they were fishing, especially near land, they had figured out that everything bites these. They were catching rockfish and bass and all sorts of stuff. So these are a great place to start. Don't throw them away. If you got them, use them. You'll see teeth marks all over mine. And then as this evolves, there's been more things coming into the West Coast from, Mustad, from local companies like West Coast Jiggers and Slow Death Jigs. And then we have stuff from Japan and Australia, some of the things you see hanging in the background, which we'll talk more about in other videos. So for islands specifically, if you're going out and, not just islands, but if they're fishing down the beach, Yellowtail are biting at the rock pile. They're biting at the Coronados. What do I take? Have I had success with? And it really kind of looks like you see here. The Mustad Staggerbod is a great jig. 150 gram size, 6 ounces. This is my go-to for islands fishing or down the beach, fishing the rock pile, any of that. If I'm in water between 80 to 180 feet deep, this is what I'm grabbing. I've caught in pretty much every species of fish that you can imagine at the islands, be it at the Coronados or down at Cedros with these jigs. Black sea bass, white sea bass, yellowtail, calicos, bonita, halibut, everything is going to bite this. My preferred rigging for these, and you'll notice this with all of my jigs, is going to be 2 assist hooks at the top with a split ring. You'll notice that I have a solid ring on a lot of mine as well. That gives me a place to tie. I could pull this off and switch between jigs. It's my own personal thing, but split ring to 2 assist hooks. These assist hooks will come tied. They're essentially on one solid ring. It's not 2 hooks hanging on a split ring. These are specialized slow pitch. You could tie these yourself, which I'll make another video. But for islands fishing, this is what I use. 120 gram, 150 gram, 220 gram, 150 gram. These 2 specifically do very well. It doesn't have to be green. This guy right here, this is a Nomad Buffalo jig. It's a 120 size. This kills it at the Coronados. I've done very well. Teeth marks all over this. I have a lot of them in this color. When the yellowtail are diving under the boat to go get into the chum behind the boat, this is what I drop down. I catch a lot of fish on this jig. And we'll talk about techniques, but specific to tackle, this is what I like to use. And I have another kind of candy stripe one, the Candy Cane 120 gram. Here's a Daiwa Mr. Slow. This thing's really good, specifically at the bottom. This is a 220. This is a little bit heavier than I'd like for that inshore type stuff. But if we're in 180 feet of water, I don't sweat this. I'll drop this down, especially if there's a lot of drift. But they make a 180 size. This is a 220. I actually have the 180 here. And you'll see, again, just covered in teeth marks. This one's done very well for me. I love this jig. I'll be sad the day I lose it. If you could find these, buy them. But these things do very well at the islands for yellowtail. So that's kind of the general weight you want to go with, that 120 up to 220. 2 assist hooks at the top. You'll notice I don't have them at the bottom, or one at the top, one at the bottom, kind of the way that they come rigged. The reason for that is you will get snags. You're fishing in the islands, and anytime you're doing any sort of bottom fishing, you're going to get snags where the jig hits the ground. If it's a hard bottom, it's going to go between the rocks. You'll get hung up, you'll lose jigs. It's just a fact of life fishing like this. But with the 2 hooks on the top, I still get a great hookup ratio because the fish will dog bone it from the side. But I have some agency on whether or not I get snagged on the bottom, because this just, I can feel and probe when it hits the bottom, and then I could give it a crank or 2 up and start my pitching. And that's just how I like to fish these things. So those are my, really, I mean, if I had to grab 2 of these, it'd probably be this green guy and this blue and silver one for the islands. All of these work really well. All of these have teeth marks on them. And that's what I love to use for the islands. For your humble half-day trips, you know, you're going out of the San Diego area, or you're going out of the Long Beach area, they're going out deeper water for rockfish. This looks like a knife jig, but it's center weighted. The idea is it's 400 grams. You're getting it to the bottom. You'll see that I have 1 hook on the top, which is just fine. You can add another one. Same deal though, when it goes down and hits the bottom, I could feel it. I'm fishing braid, it's very sensitive, and then I can give it a couple cranks up. But 1 hook there. 400 to 600 feet of water is really deep. You want to have a heavy jig. You want to get to the bottom as fast as you can. And then you want to start fishing. And this is one of the ones I like to use. This is a Slow Death Jigs Ogre. It's a 400 gram center weighted knife jig. You'll notice that I like center weighted stuff because it gives a really good flutter and an action. If you're going to be doing like speed jigging, some of the other stuff, we'll talk about that in another video. But center weighted is the theme of a lot of these slow pitch jigs. And then this guy, again, covered in teeth marks. I bought this a few years ago when there wasn't a ton of options. This is like a generic Amazon. You could get these on Temu or AliExpress. It's a center weighted, no name, 400 gram jig. I just bought it because it was big. I like the shape. It was heavy. It was center weighted, so it checked all the boxes for me. I've caught a lot of rockfish on this. If you're doing a day and a half, they're going out to the 60-mile bank. This is what you want to fish. They will just, you'll have a hard time keeping fish off this. So again, you know, for those half-day trips, deep water trips, 350 to 400 grams. And then if you're fishing the islands, this lighter stuff, that's typically what I take. And then as far as rods and reels go, you know, there's a lot of options out there. For a long time, I was fishing this Phoenix Titan. I have a whole kind of rack of different options, which we can get into. But for tackle, whether you've done this before, you're just trying to figure out how to do it better, hopefully that was helpful. And we'll make some more videos in the future.